Inbound season is upon us, everybody, so get ready because Inbound 2025 will bring together, once again, the brightest minds in marketing, sales, and AI to explore what's now and what's next. The event is taking place September 3rd to 5th at the Moscone Center in San Francisco, and this 3-day experience features inspiring keynotes, tactical breakout sessions, exclusive product reveals, and immersive workshops. You can network with industry leaders and gain actionable insights to implement immediately for your company. The speakers we got on the docket are great this year. We got Amy Poehler, Marques Brownlee, Sean Evans, Glennon Doyle, and many others. You're not going to want to miss it. You can go to inbound.com/register to secure your spot at Inbound 2025.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Thursday, June 26th. I'm Mark Dent here with Katherine Laidlaw, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. Today, we are talking about everyone's favorite green beverage, matcha. This tea-based drink made from ingredients developed in Japan has become a sensation at coffee shops and on TikTok. But matcha can also be relatively hard for sellers to find and therefore expensive for people who want that tasty matcha goodness. So we're going to talk about why something that's so popular is surprisingly unpopular to produce. We're going to get to that in a bit, but first, let's give you the hits and headlines in business and tech. All right, let's start off with the dating scene. It's a tough time to find a match, and arguably an even tougher time to play the matchmaker. Bumble announced yesterday it planned to lay off 30% of its staff, some 240 employees, because it's aiming to slim down and return to growth after years of stagnation. The move led to Bumble's stock price going up by 20% on Wednesday. Dating apps, of course, like Bumble, like Tinder, like others, have been struggling as young people have grown tired of endless online swiping. The CEO of Bumble, Whitney Wolfe Herd, justified these layoffs by saying that a smaller staff will allow the app to be faster and more decisive at launching new products. Okay, so if you don't like online dating, here's a quick suggestion. Maybe just go on a cruise, because it seems like everyone is. The latest earnings for cruise operator Carnival Corp were about as hulking as their large ships. Carnival registered its highest margins in nearly 20 years and said that advanced bookings for next year are tracking with record levels. The news of Carnival having these great earnings sent its competitor, Royal Caribbean Group's share price to an all-time high because it's going to have its earnings call next month. Katherine, it is a real cruising world right now. Hard to believe, just 5 years after the pandemic.
Yeah, this really surprised me for some reason. I'm curious to know what demographic is being drawn in by these ships and maybe what upgrades these ships have undergone in the last 20 years since the last time I was on a cruise. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm curious if cruising is like Gen Z's new thing and I've just missed it because I'm not on social media. I don't know.
I'm honestly guessing it's still the silent generations thing and the baby boomers thing. But, they have a lot of money to spend. There's another cruise company called Regent Seven Seas that in 2027 is going to launch a 140-day, 40-country trip that's going to cost $840,000 per person. So there's maybe people with money who are making these earnings kind of go up, I think.
In it for the bragging rights, for sure. 40 countries. That's wild.
I know. All right, let's move on to Apple news. Does anyone remember when Apple gave everybody a U2 album on their iTunes that nobody wanted? I mean, maybe some people. I know U2 does have its fans. But anyway, the sequel to that strategy just came out. That's because iPhone owners have realized that they just received a wallet notification offering a $10 Fandango discount for the purchase of 2 or more tickets to F1 the Movie. F1 the Movie is an Apple Original Films flick that stars Brad Pitt as an aspiring Formula One driver and features Apple technology both on screen and behind the scenes. But I guess everybody likes Brad Pitt, so maybe people aren't quite as upset. Here's something cool. New Zealand's Halter raised $100 million at a $1 billion valuation, making the cow tech startup a full-fledged unicorn. So Halter has a system of smart cow collars tied to a virtual fencing app that helps ranchers move livestock with sound cues. This is, I like this technology.
I love this technology. Forget swiping on Bumble. This is the swiping that I want to be doing.
Yeah.
I think this is so wholesome.
It seems like a better space to invest in at this moment rather than dating. I think cows are the future.
It reminds me of, what was that game, Farmville, that everyone and their uncle were obsessed with for a while on Facebook?
Oh, yeah. Early 2010s, late aughts. That and that one vampire game or something, I don't know, was all anybody did. Okay, finally, Unilever will acquire men's grooming company Dr. Squatch, apparently charmed by its built-in culture, brand, and advertising. And as you may know, Dr. Squatch sells soap supposedly infused with actress Sydney Sweeney's bathwater. So I guess that is something that can get you acquired now.
Okay, look, side hustles fail when they consume all of your time. I mean, every single bit of it. The pros, though, work smarter with AI doing all the heavy lifting. To help you out, we just dropped the Side Hustle Accelerator database. You can search your exact problem for your side hustle, grab the perfect prompt, and get results. If you're struggling with marketing, content, and customer service, it's all solved in just seconds. This isn't just another tool, guys. It's your unfair advantage in a spreadsheet. So stop asking AI the wrong questions and start scaling with what actually works. You can get it for free in the link in our show notes. And you can stop right now, actually. Why don't you take a look down at those show notes and tap the link? You don't want to sleep on this.
Okay, let's move on to the main story. And as I mentioned, we are talking about matcha. It's the drink that everybody is drinking. It's green. You cannot miss it if you're inside of a coffee shop, unless, of course, they're sold out of it. So, Katherine, what exactly is matcha and why has it become so popular? You just wrote a story for us on this a couple days ago.
I did, yeah. So matcha is a type of specially grown green tea, essentially. It's been sort of grown under gradual cover of darkness over time, processed and ground into sort of a fine powder that's sold in little packets or tins. You can mix it with water. What's gotten really popular is matcha latte, which is mixed with steamed milk and then whisked to sort of create the drinks that you'll see people waiting in line for hours for, or lining up at the coffee shops asking for. Most of that tea today is grown in Japan. And so there's a couple of reasons why it's become really popular. One is that Japan is sort of riding a popularity wave of its own right now. It has set record-breaking numbers over the last couple of years in terms of international visitors, upwards of 37 million last year. Matcha itself has sort of emerged in the coffee market as being arguably a bit more healthful option than coffee. It contains a little bit less caffeine. Its proponents argue that the antioxidants in it have health benefits. And then also, just to be frank, like, it plays well on social media, right?
It looks
that
gorgeous.
Vivid green. It looks gorgeous. The color really pops. It's all over TikTok for a reason.
Yeah, I remember green tea lattes kind of had a moment, a decade ago. And these are kind of just like a different iteration of that. But it's so weird to me. It's like you mentioned, it's just this powder derived from growing tea in Japan. And, that powder then is mixed with milk, like in the case of these green tea lattes or other things. So you have people who just buy this powder on their own. You have coffee shops that buy it. You have other retailers that buy it and then sell it. It just seems like, okay, matcha popular, so people buy it, therefore everybody should be happy. But it doesn't seem like that's what's happening here. What are some of the issues going on?
No, it's actually caused like a year of unprecedented chaos in the market. And so there are a few issues going on, but essentially, it can be distilled down to unprecedented demand puts unprecedented strain on a supply chain that's really not set up for sort of international scale or hasn't seen international scale, so hasn't been forced to sort of evolve in the same way. At many stages of the process, businesses that are operating in this market are family owned. They're sort of smaller. So that includes the farmers, the stone millers who are responsible for the grinding. It includes the packaging operations. And then a lot of the times, the sort of wholesalers who will oversee the exporting of the powder overseas. And so you're seeing bottlenecks at virtually every stage of the process. On top of that, sort of like in the US, the number of farming families in Japan are going down. The average age of a farmer in Japan is, I believe, 67.
That's up there with the people who like still go on cruises.
Definitely part and parcel, yes. And so you're sort of seeing these younger generations not taking up the family business in the same way, which is leaving a bit of a hole in the market, makes these sort of smaller operations a little bit slower to scale. The matcha, once it has been handpicked, which only happens once a year at an annual harvest, then goes on to the grinding facilities, these stone mills, which can grind 40 grams in an hour, because that in itself is a labor-intensive, equipment-intensive process. And then even when it comes to things as simple as packaging or things that we have sort of automated or have sort of major factories set up here, that hasn't been set up for matcha, which is a really delicate substance and isn't shelf stable over long periods of time. And so its packaging requirements are specific. And the factories in Japan that have been set up for this just aren't used to taking orders at the size that they're now seeing. And so in speaking with wholesalers, they're talking about factories taking orders on paper and then packing slips getting lost and things like that. Like, I think there's been quite an adjustment quite quickly.
And you mentioned it in your story that there was a grower and distributor who's reported a price increase of 1.5x, another grower raising prices by 150%. And, one of the sources you talked to said, it's a great situation right now if you're one of them. Like, if you have the supply and you can kind of pass it on down the supply chain. But for everybody who's lower on the supply chain, from stores or people who just want matcha, it seems like it's maybe not the greatest situation right now.
That's right. And fights are breaking out. I mean, Matcha Talk, which is sort of a niche area of TikTok, there's sort of bullying going on, accusations of hoarding and overconsumption for people who are posting their matcha hauls. You get people posting like crazy whenever there's new stock in shops in like San Francisco, for example, where I've seen that happen, where people will congregate on Reddit. Does anyone know where I can buy a tin of matcha today? You have sort of cafes that are opening and then having to close or having to pivot really quickly to other drinks because their matcha supply dries up really quickly. There's sort of this rush and then ensuing chaos. But I think what we're going to see is, an uneven supply coming out for the next, it was estimated, year or two by the people that I spoke to. And then rising prices will also probably be an inevitability as this continues.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, it's like lattes are already expensive enough. Now it's like, okay, a potential 150% increase on the matcha latte.
Right?
Yeah. And who knows, maybe tariffs will become involved soon too.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, delicious drink and a deliciously interesting topic, but maybe not the greatest for people who actually want it over the next year. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter, so if you're not subscribed, please go get signed up at thehustle.co/email. And if you just can't get enough of that, then please follow us on Instagram at The Hustle Daily. We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, look, side hustles fail when they consume all of your time. I mean, every single bit of it. The pros, though, work smarter with AI doing all the heavy lifting. To help you out, we just dropped the Side Hustle Accelerator database. You can search your exact problem for your side hustle, grab the perfect prompt, and get results. If you're struggling with marketing, content, and customer service, it's all solved in just seconds. This isn't just another tool, guys. It's your unfair advantage in a spreadsheet. So stop asking AI the wrong questions and start scaling with what actually works. You can get it for free in the link in our show notes. And you can stop right now, actually. Why don't you take a look down at those show notes and tap the link? You don't want to sleep on this.